All I will say is that we presented all of the facts that we have, and we've been working very closely with the county attorney's office. We're fact finders here in the police department, and we presented the facts that our investigators, and by the way, we've had a lot of investigators, at least 3 that have worked on that case specifically and other cases involving the archdiocese, basically on a full-time basis. Again, that question's better answered by John Choi than me.
What cases have you forwarded to the county attorney's office?
Just those 2 cases, which we will be talking about today.
Okay. How many cases are there overall?
There are other cases. I believe we have 9 other ongoing investigations at this time.
9 others?
Including these.
Oh.
Including these?
7 others.
Okay, 7 others.
Just 7 other ongoing. How many victims do they involve?
Ongoing investigation.
Yep, I was just going to say ongoing, and can't really talk about that right now.
Chief, back in November, I believe, you talked about how you were frustrated with the cooperation or lack of cooperation of the archdiocese and its officials in terms of providing information and so forth. What's the status of their cooperation at this point, would you say?
What I will say is that after that press conference, the cooperation has improved with the archdiocese. I expect that continues to occur. What I've said all along publicly is that, you know, there has been a lot of people in the archdiocese, including the archbishop, that have said that, you know, there have been mistakes that have been made throughout this entire reporting period, and that they want to be transparent. And I expect that the archdiocese continues to be transparent. Again, things have improved since then, and I expect that they will continue to hopefully improve in the future.
Have they provided people for police to interview other than the attorneys?
Other than the attorneys, we have met with archdiocesan attorneys and also a vicar general. And I think that's been reported already.
Right. And that's Father Lockwood's.
Yes.
And Emily, was there something with Kevin McDonough that you were?
Yeah, one of the people that you had mentioned previously that you had wanted to talk with was Father McDonough, Kevin McDonough, and I'm wondering if you have talked with him yet.
No, we have not had the opportunity to speak with Father McDonough.
Is he still declining to talk?
At this time period, yes.
Has the focus of the investigations been on the perpetrators themselves, or has it gone into the officials and the potential for failing to report or obstructing justice?
Well, that's a great question, Mara, and what I will say is that they somewhat go hand in hand, but I want to be very clear that victims take precedence over anything. Just like any victim of a crime in the city of St. Paul, that is our job, to make sure to protect those individuals. So what I will say again is that yes, that those investigations involve victims of alleged abuse, and through those investigations, if we find out that protocols were not followed as far as failure to report, that becomes part of the investigation as well.
How many victims have come forward since Commander Nash put out the call?
I believe that we had.
We've got the 7 cases.
Okay.
To be clear, those 7 cases also include a well-publicized case involving the Archbishop.
How do you address people who say that police haven't done enough with investigating officials in particular?
You know, that's a great question, and I think the public deserves a lot of answers. But it's interesting because there's been so many different things that have been reported in the media about what people have questions regarding, what is going on since September, when a lot of this first came forward, when someone had very specific concerns that had worked at the Archdiocese. I will tell you that there's more than just the St. Paul Police Department that you have to take a look at. So what we have done is look at specific cases. What we have done is put list of questions together and work with our county attorney as well to make sure that we look and at least investigate all of the allegations specifically that we have, and then cursory allegations or concerns as far as reporting what the church should do. For those people that say that the police department hasn't done enough, there's just another group of people that say the police department has done too much. But you know what, we are doing specific things, and I'm just going to tell you, we're not going to leave any stone unturned. I think I've said that before, and we are investigating specific things that we are aware of that occurred in the city of St. Paul. I want to clarify one thing for you, because I just got done doing another interview as well that I think that the public gets very confused about. Specific allegations of abuse, very critical. That's our number one job, to make sure that we take care of those victims. Then you have the public also thinking, well, what about this thing about conspiracy to cover things up, okay? And in some of that, that's wide sweeping. That covers our entire archdiocese of Minneapolis and St. Paul, things that occurred outside of St. Paul, just like when a credibly accused list of priests came out. You saw a lot of things didn't even occur in St. Paul. They didn't, but people expect us, because the archdiocese and the home office is here to investigate everything. What I will say is this, is that if a crime occurred, or an alleged crime occurred outside the city of St. Paul, that law enforcement agency would investigate that complaint. Just like today, Washington County Attorney's Office is going to give a statement about something that happened in Washington County. However, if there was a decision made at the chancery by the hierarchy of the archdiocese, a failure to report, I think people get confused. We may investigate that with another law enforcement agency at the same time if a decision was made here, right here in St. Paul. So I want the public to be aware of that. It's very confusing because of all the reporting that's been going on, not just here, but in Chicago and Philadelphia. We continue to hear things, even outside. I think there's been reporting in the last 2 weeks from the Vatican about these same issues. And what I will tell you and go back to again is specific complaints. We have done, Mara, everything that we can on specific complaints. We've gone as far as tried to interview other people, because I believe that as a church official, the church has a hierarchy and an organizational chart just like we do here in the police department. There's bosses, there are people, there are priests that have higher authorities than others. And to me, that means that you should be able to ask people questions about how those things work, and those are some of the things we want to continue to go forward on, and hopefully the Archdiocese will continue to be very transparent with us so we can get to the crux of some of the questions that the public has as well.
Chief, it might be worth also mentioning some of the things that we have done. For instance, we talked about it earlier, the 3 investigators who have been assigned to this and really
Full-time.
new cases, and we've reached out to outside resources, the NICMIC folks.
Right.
Some of the things that we have done, it might be worth mentioning some of that.
And that is true. We've left no stones unturned. 3, Howie's correct, and I think I said it briefly just before, we've had 3 full-time investigators, and now specifically 2 they have not received any other cases except looking at the complexities of the Archdiocese case. When you have the specific cases that we're investigating, then we have our own questions about processes, because processes can lead to some sort of criminal activity as well. Those are the questions we continue to ask. It's a full-time job. The National Center for Exploited Children, we use them on the Father Shelley case. They are the national experts as far as whether looking at photographs and other evidence, whether it is adult or child pornography. In fact, that's why it took so long to finalize the Father Shelley case. So this has been a full-time situation for the St. Paul Police Department. I don't expect that to change in the near future with new information that hopefully will come forward. And again, whoever says we're not doing enough, they're wrong. It's just that people believe, because of the reporting, that I should be able to go and do all sorts of different things at the Chancery, but we have to follow legal and due process.
Just time check quick, guys. We got about 3 more minutes.
Mr. Torrance? Do you, Chief, can you say anything about what search warrants have been filed, if any, in these cases?
I can't speak to ongoing investigations. I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question as of right now.
Can you say whether search warrants were filed for this Curtis Waymire investigation or the Father Shelley investigation?
For the,
Waymire, yes.
yeah.
And
If you need details on how many.
Yeah,
there are,
I would have to
we'll
talk
work
with
to try
Commander
get that
Nash to get,
for you, Emily.
Okay. Yeah, we were curious about whether you looked at the Chancery or whether there's information being stored at the attorney's office or their attorney.
see, but that's one of the questions, Emily, that confuse the public, because on what specifically? You know, we have specific cases versus then what the public or others view as, Chief, are you just filing search warrants so you could go search the entire Chancery? Well, for what? You know,
Chief, you have experience filing a search warrant.
I do. And you have to have, you know, I've drafted many search warrants myself. Search warrants need detailed, corroborating, investigative information to present to a district court judge, who then is going to scrutinize what you have. And you have to have more than one. You have to have independent information. I'll give you an example. I can remember some years ago I was going to do a search warrant, and I knew I didn't have enough yet to present it to a judge. So I filed it on my desk, work with the people within my unit to get more corroborating information so I could present that to a district court judge and let them look to see, is there enough there then for us to go forward with the search warrant. But I think what confuses the public is that the public believes, and I've been asked this question before, Chief, could you just not do a search warrant and just go search the entire Chancery for all these files? And there's no judge. I mean, that's not due process. You have to have specific information. That's why I go back to, now that we're talking to archdiocesan officials, we are trying to get some of those answers, and we are continuing to meet with them to hopefully get more documents to go forward. And within those documents, if we have enough information on specific cases, not just a wide sweeping thing, then we can go forward.
Did you have enough
This will be the
information?
last one.
Did you have enough information on the Waymire case to execute a search warrant?
Search warrants were executed in the Waymire.
Well, yeah, especially at the beginning, yes.
No, well, I'm not talking about the case against Father Waymire himself. I'm talking about this subsequent investigation.
Well, the subsequent investigation, again, that gets confusing again. The subsequent
Whatever's being
investigation
defined.
had to do with whether the mandatory reporting laws were filed. I'll
Exactly.
just give you that.
Right, so,
We didn't have to do a search warrant in that case.
okay.
And again, that's one case. But I get
Right.
your question, and that's
No, I
where the
understand.
public
I
thinks,
understand.
you know, in other cases, they haven't done this, well, we have to have specifics, and we did not need to do that then.